Hey, good morning, everyone. How's it going? Today is going to be a fun one because we're going to be talking about relieving yourself from decision paralysis. And this is something that, if you've ever been in that situation before where you have to make a decision, but you just feel like you can't, then usually you just don't, or you make things kind of out of the blue without a lot of thought put out into it. And sometimes that's okay. And I want to share two examples with you today that I've actually put into place, one by complete accident and the other on purpose because I just couldn't make a decision. First, I'm going to say hello to everyone who is able to join me live. I know that I'm not great at pre scheduling these. I'll be very honest with you. My lives tend to be a bit of spur of the moment because I'm thinking about something in the car. I'm like, this would be a great topic to talk about on live. And this is why I love the rewatch crew. So if you're a part of the rewatch crew, we've got a fun little hashtag going on for those people to kind of call you out a little bit more. Hashtag rewatch crew for everyone who can't join because Mark randomly decided to make this happen on a Monday morning, or you're in a different time zone and you have asleep right now. You're not able to catch it live, or it's really late for you and you're not able to catch it live. So absolutely love when we have people who are able to join. We've already got a slice of life from England. How you doing? Sarah Chalk, good morning. How you doing? So let's go ahead and get into our topic today. So the idea of today's topic is what I kind of mentioned, is that when you have a decision paralysis, you can't make a decision. I put two tactics into place for me, or two tools to help me do that. The first is one that I've used at work in a completely different way, which is a randomizer tool. And this is not something that I typically go to because I like to have control over my decisions. You can still have control over your decisions without having to make a full decision. So here's the situation. Yesterday, I'm going to go ahead and set up my bullet journal, and I have a lot of inks behind me, if you are not familiar, and I have a pretty large fountain pen collection as well. And every week, I try to use different pens, both to use the ink that I have, but also to use the pens that I have as well. And I just couldn't make a decision yesterday. I was like, what am I going to do? And I have all of my fountain pens and all of my inks cataloged digitally inside of Airtable. I have a video on my channel about that. If you're interested in learning more about how I did that, there's also a template for you too, because I want to make it even easier for you. And I decided that I'm going to go ahead and just take the full list of pens and I'm going to put them into a randomizer. And that's going to choose the pen that I'm going to use this week. So I did exactly that. I have a reel that I've been trying to work on this morning to get out to kind of show you how I did this and how I made that decision. And so I basically was like, all right, go ahead, make this decision for me. I don't want to have to. Copy, pasted it picked the pen. Very excited about it. I actually don't even know where my pen is right now. Oh, I put it on its stand. So it ended up being the Delta Duna. This was an Atlas Stationers exclusive. It actually has on the pen barrel, you probably can't see it, but it says Delta Atlas 2024 limited edition. And this is pen 122 of 150. Very excited to do that. So randomly it picked this one for me. I was like, awesome. One decision is made. I don't have to make another one now. Oh, wait, I do. What ink am I putting inside of there? And with a huge giant collection of ink behind me, I was like, all right, let's just go ahead and randomize that. Like I'm not really good at pairing like pens and certain colors together. A lot of my other friends, Julie here, is fantastic at it. There's other people out there that are really, really good at it. Leska is another one. Alexa is someone I follow on Instagram. I love her ink swatches. She pairs inks and pens together very well too. I'm color deficient. So like I look at the descriptions and it's like, whatever colors these are, blues and greens. And I'm like, all right, that fits inside of my motif. I like that, buy it. So I went ahead and did the same exact thing. I have all of my inks cataloged and digitally swatched as well. And I went ahead and put them all inside the randomizer, and it picked out Rebirth, which was a really nice copper color. And it just happened. I think they look good together because this has like gold on it, right? And then all this other fun stuff. So this was the combination that it made. And I just let it ride. I let the randomizer handle it for me. And some people might actually say, well, that's a little bit too much. I don't have enough control over that. And while I copy and pasted, over 100 inks and over, I don't think 100 pens yet. I'm not there yet. Maybe like 60 pens or so. It's still a lot. I can control the ones that I want inside of this. So a great example is that when I went to put in the inks, I decided I don't want any inks with any shimmer inside of it. I just wasn't feeling it for this week. And so I just excluded them from my list. So I also excluded any purples and pinks. And while I have them in my collection, I don't personally like to write with them in my bullet journal. It's just not my favorite colors. And so I excluded those from the list and popped in what I wanted, which I really, really liked. And a similar thing with the pens, except I didn't exclude anything from the pens, I don't think. I just kind of said, let it happen, because I love all my pens that I have. So that was one way that I decided that, I was just not going to make that decision, and I was going to let something else do it for me. And it worked out really well. I feel like you could probably do the same thing with like a chat GPT or something else like that if you wanted to feed it all of your pens and ink in your collection and like keep that going. I just picked a random generous. What the hell did I even saying right now? I can't even think of the word. The brain is lost. Randomly generated. There we go. List of things to do. I just picked from the top there. So that was the first one. So if you ever feel like you cannot make a decision, you find one of those things and you just make that happen, and it works out really well. Erica said, being in control of things all the time gives me decision fatigue. Nice to randomize things. 100%. I think it's a really great way. If you're just not looking to make a decision, let someone else make it. Oh, we've got a good one inside of here. Love a good randomizer, and a dice roller reminds me of playing Dungeons and Dragons, but with ink. Yeah, 100%, right? Like you just kind of make things happen, see what happens. I do similar things with like usernames sometimes when you just kind of run out of them or you don't want them. Or speaking of D&D, I know there's a lot of name generators and things like that. And it just kind of helps you kind of relieve all the extra stress, right? And just kind of let it just happen for you. It works out really well. So that was the first thing I put into place. And I thought, I like this. I could probably do the same thing when trying to pick out a notebook. I think any type of random thing that you can kind of populate in something will work out well. Is thinking about eventually when I do that with my stamps, I'll do the same exact thing maybe where I'm like, okay, I need to pick a theme of something, but I have to have all those themes documented somewhere to do that, because I also have that problem too when I set up a bullet journal and I want to use stamps. I'm like, but I have so many, so like how do I just pick? And I just kind of thumb through them and pick one out and then make a different decision. Luckily, we figured everything out. We got the pen, we got the ink, we've got the bullet journal for the week. Very proud of it. I actually was like, what color is good with copper? And it was like dark blue. So I went with the dark blue. So that was that. So the other thing that I did, and this was completely by accident, but after I did it, I was like, oh, this actually kind of worked out. It's letting someone else challenge you with a goal or a decision. But I think there is a caveat to this. So here's my example of what happened with me, and I'm excited about it for this accidental way of doing it. So since August, September, I'm working with a personal trainer online through Martin Method is what I'm using. And Coach Tori is my direct coach as a part of that. It's big in like kettlebells. I was trying to find something that worked out with me. I did really, really, really well with it from about August, September until about the end of October. In November, I started to see myself decline. December, I saw myself decline even more. And like last week and the week before, I don't really think I actually did any workouts. Like I am not motivated to do it. And I couldn't really help myself find that motivation to do it. So I was chatting with my coach, and, she was like, all right, what can we do to like, put this fire back under you? You have a handful of weeks until kind of my 6-month training program is over. And what I meant to write to her was, I said, how much time do I have left in the program? And I meant to say, because I think that might help challenge me to do better. What it actually ended up typing was, can you make a challenge for me so that I have a better chance of doing this? And so by accident, I asked her to essentially create a challenge for me to get me excited about this. And she said, okay. And she's like, in the next 2 weeks, I want to challenge you to work out 5 times. And I was like, oh, I can do that. I couldn't tell myself to do that for some reason. Not really sure exactly why. I just wasn't motivated to. But by having her, someone that I trust and respect, challenge me to do that, I feel like I don't want to let her down. So that's a really big part of it. And two, I do know that it's good for my health. I know that I felt good when I was doing it. I know that I've had a lot of benefits from this program. And I was like, yeah, in the next 2 weeks, the next 14 days, I can work out 5 times. But I think the big push here was one, it was accidental. I wasn't really asking her to challenge me, but then I was like, no, actually, this is really good. She's going to challenge me to do this, and I'm gonna feel motivated to do it, and I actually feel motivated to do it because I want to hit that goal. So this is another thing that you might be able to do, and I think that I might actually try to do this more, is have other people make those decisions for me. In some cases, let them challenge me in some way, and it has to be someone that you respect. I think that's a really big part of it. You don't want to just walk up to a random person on the street and be like, hey, challenge me to something, truth or dare, like that's weird. You want to get punched or call the police on or anything like that, freak. But having someone that you really respect do that, I think works out really well. Just saw pop up in the chat. Linda said having an accountability partner is fantastic, and I completely agree with you. A big part of me sharing a lot of stuff in these lives too, unintentionally, you are also becoming my accountability partners. I tried to do this on Instagram with the working out, where like every day that I was working out, I was going live and I was talking about it. And I think just talking about things have really helped me. I mentioned in last live that I did when I was sharing about undiagnosed ADHD and like wanting to talk with someone. We talked about insecurities about biting my fingernails. Since then, I haven't bitten my fingernails, and I've actually been following a lot of what people shared with me as a part of that. Not because it's like I don't want to let you down to a certain extent, but I just wanted to prove to myself that I could, and I have, luckily. Not that I don't think about it every second of the day, right? But with working out, it was a similar thing. Where I just felt like by talking to people, getting it out there, that I was therefore holding myself accountable because I was telling other people about it. There's something that a friend of mine told me about, especially with working and focusing, something called body doubling, right? This idea that you can be around someone. People do this virtually as well, which I think is really cool. You are not necessarily working on the same things. You just have somebody who's also working that makes you then want to work. I think it's the same thing. Like if you go to a library or you go to a bookstore, a lot of the times you see people sitting around drinking a coffee, reading a book, doing something. I don't know about for you, but for me, I'm like, ooh, like this would be a really fun thing to do. I think about that, especially as a remote employee, or like going to a cafe and taking my laptop and stuff and working is something that maybe would like hype me up some days to like get me extra excited about it. So I think sometimes just, asking someone to do it or put yourself in that situation is really great. All right, let me go back to the chat real quick because y'all are saying some fun stuff. I keep catching like little lines of it, and I was just like, oh, I want to make sure that I pay attention to it. So first, we got hi from Saudi Arabia. That's amazing that we like people in Saudi Arabia watch these lives. I love that. Fantastic. Fountain Pen Companion website will also help match pens to ink from Tom. Thank you for that. I haven't used that website. I know I've talked about it, but I don't know that I've actually done anything on there. I don't think I liked the way that the page was designed. I think that's what turned me off from that. But Tom, great idea. I remember that right after I typed that, I started to type out a description of it for you. Oh, that was from Sarah. Awesome. Thank you. Words are hard. Yes, they are. What's up, Matt? Desktop nerd. Let your kids pick them for me. They could. I think Viv especially would be like, yeah, she's my creative kid. Like she would find some good combos for me. It's actually a really good idea. Ross, I recommend your Mark notebook for some friend on Discord yesterday. They were excited to take a look. Thank you, Ross. I appreciate it. I'm loving working in my marks. I was working on my layout for this week, and I was like, these smart marks in here are so great. Like splitting your page into thirds or halves. It just worked out really well for me. I love that. All right, Tom. It's nice not to have to make a decision once in a while. I completely agree. I think it's so nice not having to do that. I was thinking about this the other day too. I was listening back. We have another Planner Pals podcast that Jess and I do. If you're unfamiliar, check it out. All of the episodes, but it's our first episode of season 2 of this year. We're just doing a season is the year of 2025. And we were talking about being consistent in your bullet journal and your planners. One thing that Jess is doing this year is that she's like gamifying her life, which is pretty interesting. And I thought it was pretty cool. But as a part of the conversation, I mentioned that like I wouldn't be good at doing that because the idea is that you reward yourself after a certain amount of points that you get from doing life things, but I want someone else to set that up for me and like challenge me with surprises and prizes as I hit certain points. You know, it's like going to Starbucks and you ring up all those points to eventually get a free coffee. Like that's a lot of fun. It's also a little scary when you think about how much money you have to spend to get a free coffee. But it's that kind of stuff, though. I think that works out really well. Leah, Josh's Discord voice chat often has people body doubling. Yes, that's actually where I first started doing that. I did that one time, and it was actually a lot of fun. So I'm glad that she has a space for that. What's that? ADHD are here. Body doubling is incredibly helpful for me. That's from Sarah as well. I think it's really cool. I think you just have to find a good partner to do it with. I have another friend of mine that lives up here around where I do, actually, two other friends that work in similar areas as me, but not the same exact job. And we've talked about wanting to do that. But I think the fact that we both have full-time jobs, we both have families and kids, like it's not exactly like something that she can kind of do, but I think about it often where I think it would be good. But I also feel like I'd be very chatty and I wouldn't get a lot of work done because I work by myself here at home. So other than talking to the dogs, you know, I would just be like, so human contact, what is this? All right. Linda saying the minimal mom talks about body doubling too. Helpful and motivational. I love that. Yeah, it's something that I definitely want to try to do more. I do this at work a lot. When we go into work, we all share like one big room. So tomorrow is actually my next in-office day, which I'm excited about. It does invigorate me as a remote team member, and a lot of my other team members being local remote is what I call it. We all live about an hour or so away from where the office is, and we still try to go into the office once a month at least to FaceTime, workshops, kind of all that fun stuff. I'm very energized by the energy that we create in the room when we do that. So the body doubling thing plays into a lot of play. I also appreciate it too because I'm not surrounded by constant distractions. It's one of those things that I think about often where I was like, I have a lot of distractions. No wonder I'm all over the place some days. I'm getting better at not being distracted. But it's one of those things too where it's just like a different environment feels really good as well. And I feel like it's a lot of fun. Yeah, Tom said you have a lot of fun distractions there. Yeah, there's a lot going on, and you're only seeing this much. Like you can't see everything over here and all the notebooks and everything over behind me. Not that there's a lot over there. We're trying to clean out down here more because I took up too much space with all my crap. So those are kind of the two big things. So I was just kind of wanted to touch base with you all and kind of talk through that because it is something that I feel like often I struggle with sometimes. Like sometimes I'm just like, make a decision. You probably can't see it because it's a bit blurry behind me, but I do have this quote that I put up here for a reason because I found this years ago and I don't know how to not make it. If I move, does it? Hey, there we go. Look at that. I don't know if you can hear me very well, but it's right or wrong decision. Essentially, it's make a decision. There's a road. What is it? I'll read it this way. Be decisive. Right or wrong, make a decision. The road of life is paved with squirrels that couldn't make a decision. I think it actually says flat squirrels that couldn't make a decision. But that's one of my favorite quotes because so often we sit and we talk and we think about things that we want to do. And sometimes I just have to be like, let's just make a choice. Right or wrong, let's just make a choice. And so I have that up there to remind me to do that. But there are just some times where you're just like, I can't do this right now. This isn't going to happen for me. And you just sit there like, okay, looking at a notebook, looking at all your pens, looking at all your inks, you know, whatever it might be. Life choices are even more harder, right? Like if you're thinking about buying a car and you have 6 different options, you're just like, okay, what's the right thing? You know, how do I do this? And that's why I think often it's good to talk with other people, like I said, that you trust. Sometimes I find it helpful, and I know significant others might not necessarily love this, but I like to talk with other people that are not in my immediate radius because I think they're kind of very outside of the other decisions or things that are happening. So they have this very objective look at things where they're like, okay, I know you, I understand what you are trying to do. So I don't have any skin in the game essentially. So let me go ahead and try to help you make this decision or try to figure that out. And again, it kind of what I go back to, if you trust that person, I think it makes it a lot easier for you to be able to accept their advice and their help. Because if you ask somebody that you don't really appreciate, trust, you know, think is going to make good decisions for you, then you're kind of like, I don't like that decision. Somebody else, and you're just like, okay, I think that this is going to work out, or I don't think it's going to work out. I need to talk to somebody else about it because I really don't trust them. So I think having those trusted people in your life are really good. Again, that could be a close family or friend, that just could be a random person on the internet, maybe that's just in the general area that you are. I think about often, especially within the stationary space in the community, we have a very strong community. Jess and I have talked about this in the past, where I think, a number of years ago, it felt very competitive, where everyone was just vying for that top spot and more viewers over here and where all that happened. And I feel like so much of that has washed away. I'm not sure really what was the catalyst for that, but I don't feel it anymore. And that could just be general self-acceptance of like where I am and like what I'm doing. I don't know other people maybe that are creators that are just getting started, or are smaller creators, if you still feel that there is a competitiveness out there, but it's very much about who you surround yourself with, though. I think that makes such an incredible difference inside of like what's happening and what's going on. Like, it makes a big difference. Desktop Nerd Matt, like we talked about this a lot, when he got started, he reached out and we started a great conversation. We ended up finding out that we had a lot in common. I've talked about before when I started in putting stuff out on social media, trying to reach out to other creators and things like that. Not all of them were as open to it, especially the bigger creators. To a certain extent, I get it. We get a lot of messages and things like that. I'm different than probably maybe a lot of other people, where I feel the need, because I want to make sure I respond to messages. You'll see that on YouTube. If you ever leave a YouTube comment, I always try to respond to every single comment. I've spent hours responding to a backlog of comments, because I personally feel like if you're taking the time to write something productive, kind, informative, those are the things that I want to respond to. If you're here to write something nasty, then I do still respond to those messages. Don't get me wrong. I don't shy away from those, but I will let you know this is my perspective, though. This is how I look at it. I think a great example, someone the other day had posted on the Temu video that I did, like, is it really worth it or not? That they felt as if they had less respect for me because I made that video, because of the perceived forced labor that we hear about often from Temu and Shein and things like that. And I still responded to it, because everyone's thoughts or feelings are valid for the most part. But the thing is that, one, I don't think he watched the rest of that video, because I specifically talked about how I personally don't really think that Temu was like worth it in the grand scheme of things, but also like researching things a bit more and finding out about like how those businesses work and what happens. There's an article on TikTok today with Shein. They were in one of the areas in China where this they're making all the clothes and things like that. And they talked about like there's like 80% of that population is employed by Shein to do these things. And they did talk about like that forced labor, overworked and stuff like that. I don't definitely not saying that doesn't happen, but like in the context of that video specifically, let's be aware of it. But like, let's also not like be negative and like attack people for it. You feel less respect for me because I was curious to find something out. Okay. Like, that's fine. Little sidetrack there. Sorry about that. But the idea is that, I want to spend the time and respond back to those things. All right. My Driddle Jedi. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Sarah, when I remote body double with friends, we tend to either mute ourselves or minimize the video chat window. My mom will body double on the phone. Oh, my mom will body double on the phone and just let me ramble. Oh, I like that. You got a good support system over there, Sarah. I like that a lot. So I think, getting back to the original topic here, decision making. Sorry about the Temu chat. It's just something that bothers me so much. I don't know. I know we put stuff out here on the internet and we talk about it. I try to keep these videos focused. I go off on tangents all the time. I literally wrote down the idea so that I wouldn't go off on a tangent today. I did it anyway. So just this idea here again, if you're coming up against making decisions and you're not really quite sure what to do, actually, I can loop back that comment to decision making if we really wanted to, because I trust people like Jess and my friend Natasha and Julia and Aaron, who are all a part of my YouTube mastermind. And I will often put things out for them and be like, this person said this. How might you approach this situation? Because I might not do it in the right way. And I appreciate their feedback. There you go. I looped it back. Go, Mark. So if you can't make a decision, take a look at some other alternatives, essentially, and figuring that out. We've got a lot about body doubling inside of the chat. I would love to hear more from you all on that if you've done that, maybe the situations that you've put yourself in, how you do it, whether it's in person or virtual. I think that could be really cool. Definitely helpful for me as someone who has been interested in it, but never taking the official jump into doing it himself with others. That would be kind of neat. Definitely let me know if you have other tactics too that you have used to help you make decisions. I think that the chat and the comment section of videos are probably the most informative spaces that you can come into because people like to share. That's just the reality of who we are. And I love that about the community. So if you're watching this as a part of the rewatch crew, or you're watching it again as a part of the live, depending where you came in, then I think, checking back through the chat, which I think I enabled after the video, so hopefully you can still read through it, or in the descriptions. Let's have conversations there. Let's continue the conversations there and talk about tactics we're using to help ourselves make decisions, especially when you just don't want to anymore. The last comment I'll make about this is an area that I really want to try, but I just can't. Maybe you all can help me make a decision here or share some ways in which you've done this. So I've always dreamed, this is a weird thing to dream about, but like have wanted for myself, the capstone or minimalist wardrobe approach to things, where you limit yourself to like a certain look and you only wear those things all the time. Matt D'Avella talks about that in his minimalist approach to things. I think that's one of the places I heard about it, where he wears the same t-shirt and jeans. Like he only has X amount and that's what he does and that's what he wears. I know Jess has talked a lot about that, not having to make decisions. So you'll see her wear a lot of like black shirts all the time. I always joke with her about that. My wife's the same way, where she has a very similar kind of thing. She has like just the colors just work, or lack of colors, or full of colors. I forget which one black is, but that works for her. But I've always thought about it. But the problem is that I like variety, especially in clothes, even though I tend to wear the same things all the time. I mean, oh gosh, look at all the dog hair on my hat. But like hats are one thing that are easy for me to do. Once, because I also, underneath it here, it's a hot mess, especially in the mornings. But like, it would be kind of like a thing. I feel like if you just had like a look where I was like, hey, black shirt, hat, jeans, and like my closet only had 10 of those things inside of it, and I really wanted to try that. But I think my problem is that I just like the diversity of it. I just can't get there. Like that's one of those things where I've tried it, where I've tried to minimalize it also from a standpoint of like buying things that just work together. I'm pretty sure our capsule wardrobe, not capstone, capsule wardrobe is what that's called. I've researched it heavily and I tried to go into it, but like the idea of like not having to make decisions with your clothes, so you can have a variety of clothes, but like regardless of the shirt and the pants that you put together, it just goes together. So you don't have to think about, does this match? Does this work together? It just does, because it's been designed to do that. So I feel like that's maybe what I need to like find out. Like you can have the variety, but not having to worry about if it makes sense or not. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm kind of figuring out. Desktop nerd, you're a t-shirt guy, but stopped wearing ones with prints on them, only plain colors. And my main brand in clothing are caps and sneakers. Yeah. Like that's kind of exactly what that's what I just want to do. I want to be more like you, bud. Kat said I can only do that with socks and basics. So you mean hyper fixated on capsule wardrobe? I did that too. I've never done the thing, only the research. Yeah, Kat, that's exactly it. I did all the research, watched the videos. I have a Pinterest board filled with like capsule wardrobe things for guys. And I was like, all right, we're going to make it happen. And then I was like, I'm not throwing away my clothes that I have. Like, I can't do that. I don't have this kind of money just to be doing this. But I feel like it would be so cool to be able to just do that. It would be so great to just pull things out and be like, this works. less decisions. All right, crew. So appreciate everyone that joined me for the live. I've been trying not to look at how many people are actually watching live because I know that in the grand scheme of things, like a lot of other people will watch this as well. That number, let me say this the right way. I appreciate every single one of you that watch live. I just have to put that out there. But I am not validating the success of anything by that current number because, like I said, I'm doing this at 8, when I started this, basically 8:30 a.m. in the morning, and I know that most people are asleep or a few hours behind me. We have a handful of people who are a few hours ahead, especially for the UK crew that are watching their second lunch break. I appreciate that. I do two lunches or two breakfasts every day. I have my 6 o'clock in the morning when my kids are eating, and then I have my like 10 o'clock like real breakfast. That's how we figure it out. So appreciate you all. But like I said, I love people that are joining me for the live, but of course 100% loving the rewatch crew too. So definitely let me know where you fall. If you're live hanging out, 100%. If you are part of the rewatch crew, holler, let me know as well. And make sure to definitely make sure to drop in your tactics that you're using for your decision making techniques or things that you've done as well. Meal prepping, Kat, let's not even get into that. I've tried that as well. That's a whole other conversation. I do it for a week and then I get sick and tired of it and I don't do it again. Let's talk about overnight oats. Let's not talk about those. Because I've done that a lot of times. It's just another thing that I was like, I'd love not to have to think about making food, but I enjoy food so much that it makes it. So thank you all again so much for hanging out today and chatting, and I absolutely love it. It's Kat and I think I found my soul person on the other end of the internet here. We are the same person. All right, friends, I'll talk to you later on. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.